This session is State of the Sector MRO, moderated by Rahul Shah from AAR.
Welcome to the session for the MRO sector, which is very important at this time of the year and this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Rahul Shah. I'm your moderator. I work for AAR Corporation and have responsibility for Asia Pac, Middle East, and Africa. COVID-19 of the beginning of pandemic has devastated air travel demand, with the number of scheduled flights down by 55% by middle of September 2020 as compared to the same week last year. The fight against the coronavirus continues with travel restrictions and quarantine to limit spread, and some of the airlines, most notably LATAM, Avianca, Virgin Australia, Virgin Atlantic, Thai Airways, Nok Air in Thailand, to name a few, have already been forced to file for bankruptcy or enter voluntary administration. So is there a light at the end of the tunnel? While the recovery is still out of sight, airlines are cautiously optimistic that the immediate phase of deep crisis for the aviation industry may come to end or not too distant future. Again, that's the wishful thinking. In fact, there are some early signs of travel restriction and rebounds, select domestic and slow growing capacity with more countries, including China, India, Vietnam, Malaysia, New Zealand, UAE, Qatar, and Russia, and some of the European countries have resumed or announced an impending resumption of domestic and with an intention to start an international travel. Coming out of the deep crisis and before settling new normal, we'll take that as an extended period, probably 18 to 24 months. While it is unclear how long it is last, but it could last more than 24 months. For industry stakeholders, including airline, this means bracing for challenging times and managing ambiguity, but also an opportunity to restructure and come out of with a rising star. Only a year ago, the prediction was that the global commercial aviation MRO industry would hit more than $84 billion in revenue in 2020. With skilled labor shortages, limited hangar capacity, and engine overhaul of material shortages keeping MRO leaders up in the night. Fast forward today, the projection will be almost 50% of the MRO spent in 2022, which is $42 billion. MRO demand is not expected to reach 2019 level until end of 2023 or beginning of 2024. As September 15, 55% of the global passenger fleet, barring China, is grounded, leading to significant drop in MRO spend. So what is MRO needs to be doing? MRO companies needs to be prepared for low demand and revenue environment, but be ready to expect capacity when the demand returns. The critical question is how prolonged and how severe will the downturn to be the aviation, and what will be the recovery look like? The MRO needs to be flexible in making sure the demand for the airline with change in schedule, short-term demand, last-minute cancellation, and ad hoc request. Simply put, one of our main challenges today, I think, is to design a tailored global support to our customers to contribute to the recovery and survival. So what happens then? There is also one of the biggest factor going on MRO will be a digital strategy. 69% of the executive interviews last 2 months for the global strategy on digital has embraced the corporation to make sure that capital investment done for the digital strategy to get ready for the future. Now that is required. As you know, digital strategy has been going on for a while. ROIC is one of the biggest challenge for the capital, how you get the return on invested capital for the capital invested. So the digital strategy grooms up to make the profitable business for it. if you look at the imperatives, right, there are focus on three imperatives for digital. The first one is digitize across the value chain. So an embedded digital across the value chain from sales all the way through manufacturing, sales, finance, and human resources. Second, collaborate to innovate, drive innovation and boost future readiness by collaborating across the industry and technology ecosystem. And the third, embrace new business model. Manage the pivot between ongoing business and what's new business model look like. So we are going to be discussing those topics today, and we have an esteemed panel member at the panel here. So we will be having very interesting discussion today. We'll start with introducing the panel member by themselves briefly, and then we'll start with question answer session where there will be dialogue going in between. So I will turn over the mic to Scott. Scott, can you introduce yourself, and then we can go from there?
Absolutely. Thank you, Rahul. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Camarotti, and I am the Chief Revenue Officer for IFS's Aerospace and Defense business. IFS is a global service provider in the aerospace and defense. We have fit-for-purpose solutions designed specifically to help meet our customers' needs. We help lead them and help them to transform their businesses. And especially in this COVID era, I believe that technology is going to play a huge role. And we believe we're at the forefront as a thought leader to help enable our operators, our MROs, and then obviously on the defense side, our defense customers as well. So I thank you for your time today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Baha?
Baha Salama. I'm the Senior Vice President, Commercial and Business Development for Sanad Aerotech. Sanad Aerotech is part of the Sanad Group that has been formed recently. The Sanad Group provides a comprehensive service for airlines. We have Sanad Capital for financing, and we have Sanad Aerotech for MRO services. And we specialize in engine MRO. And we have a portfolio of the latest technology engines, such as the GenX and very soon to come the LEAP. And we have also the mature products such as the Trent 700 and the V2500. I'm happy to be on this panel today, and will participate with the best knowledge that we have.
Great, thank you, Baha. Fred?
Frederic Dupont. I'm the Vice President of Commercial for Etihad Engineering, part of the Etihad Aviation Group. As I'm sure most of you know, we are an MRO which is primarily focused on airframe maintenance, components, and engineering services from Part 21 Juliet and Gulf, which includes manufacturing. Effectively, looking forward to talking about what's happening these days based on this pandemic, and how do we forecast things going forward, knowing that forecasting is probably the most difficult thing nowadays.
Correct.
But anyway,
Correct.
Looking forward to a very invigorating conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Ziad?
Yeah, thanks, Rahul. So I'm Ziad Al Hazmi, CEO of Lufthansa Technik Middle East. It's part of the 100% subsidiary of the Lufthansa Technik Group, which is one of the largest independent MROs here from Dubai. We have a base which is covering the Middle East, and we're providing various services, flight controls, nacelles, reversers, aircraft-related components, which we started here since the last 3 years. Yeah, I look forward to the discussion. I think every day we're getting a little bit more knowledgeable on how things are moving ahead. So look forward to this discussion. Thanks, Rahul.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction, guys. I think that's great. So for the discussion we're gonna have, so we have a panel member who is from two of the panel members are from the MRO on airframe maintenance and component maintenance, and then one from Sanad Aero, who is the engine overhaul facility, which probably give you insight on engines. And of course, Scott can give you insight on digital as well as MRO industry because he has multitude of experience with it. All right, with that, we're going to start with the first question to the panel member. How much of an impact the COVID-19 outbreak have on the revenue generation of the respective organization? Ziad, you want to start?
Yeah, sure, Rahul. I think now it's getting a little bit clearer. I think in the first few months with this COVID, we were all firefighting, trying to understand what the impact is. Now that we're already a few months into this crisis, it's becoming a little bit more clearer how it's going to develop, what are the recovery times, and I think what we see now. Initially, we thought maybe end of 21. That was at the beginning. Now we're seeing that it might take a longer recovery time.
All right.
And I think we're looking at maybe even 23, possibly 24, depending on many different factors. But what does it mean for us as an MRO? Our recovery time coincides with the airlines taking off. Maybe lagging a little bit because there's a lot of other factors in play. There will be surplus materials, there will be aircrafts lying around. So from our side, it also varies from which business segment. About engines, we see that it might take a little bit longer with green times. Line maintenance and probably base maintenance might take a little bit faster. So at the moment, what we are looking at is looking at, of course, opportunities. How can we make use of this together with our partners and our customers in the region, and taking all of those different aspects into account. Yeah.
So Ziad, if you look at your capacity today, I mean, all hangar component engines, do you think how much percentage reduction compared to the pre-COVID versus post-COVID? If you can give that estimate, that would be helpful. And this is for everybody.
We are seeing at the moment around the 50% reduction. If you average it out.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to manage.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Baha?
Yeah, so as far as revenue is concerned, going back to your question, it has been a severe impact, as Ziad has explained. We've done a little bit better than 50%, but it's about that range. It's a difficult situation to solve at the moment. We had to take immediate actions as resizing our capacity to suit the available work scopes and the available SV inductions. I think even getting closer to the OEM because some of our volumes is OEM offload. So it's as of like the first quarter of the year, things were business as normal, and we've got the expected scheduled maintenance for some of the airlines and the offloads. However, quarter two, quarter three has been severely impacted. Volumes have been down quite a bit, and that's what's forced the decision to resize and to readjust the capacity based on what's coming. As Ziad has said, for engines, we do not see, because there is a lot of spare capacity right now for the airlines, a lot of aircraft, and a lot of green time out there. So, so there is going to be a lag in the recovery. We've seen as of the end of quarter three that also the recovery flying hours has flattened out. We expected that once the borders have opened, that it will continue, the flying hours will continue to increase. However, for the past couple of months, it's kind of flattened out. It's dropped. It's not dropped, but it is at the same level as 2 months ago. And that's a worrying indicator.
Right, for the trend.
If the flying hours do not increase, obviously you cannot consume that green time, and these engines are not going to go back to the shop. So it is a day-to-day changing situation. It's a very flexible situation out there. Our internal forecasting
schedule,
our internal forecasting to go back to 2019 level, not before the end of 2023, we expect.
Correct. One more question, Baha. Do you have a customer engine was inducted in the shop, but then because of COVID, they stopped? Have you stopped working and put on hold? Is there a lot of cases like that?
There is. We have actually the engines were inducted as a customer airline engines, but they belong to lessors, and the lessors obviously kind of stopped the work and with agreement with the airlines because of the cash flow issues.
Correct.
As you know, the airlines have not been paying lease fees to the lessors, and therefore the lessors are not going to shell out for these engines. So yes, we do have cases like that where engines are halfway or at the beginning of the overall cycle, and the work has been stopped.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I know I've been talking to a lot of oil facilities within the region, both Asia Pac, Middle East, and Southern Africa region, where this is typical case, what I just mentioned, and you mentioned, that airlines have inducted the engine and now they're putting on hold and they're changing the work scope, and it's on, off. And I know it's very, very, very difficult task for the engine oil facility to plan something like that with the workforce you have, So yeah, it's a challenging time, definitely. But thank you. That's great. Frederic?
So, I mean, listen, we just like everybody else, we have not been immune to the impact of this pandemic. But I guess so far, and probably because of a very good first quarter, we've been able to weather that storm fairly well. Right. So we're probably around 90%. So
wow,
obviously,
that's great.
Yeah. So obviously. If I look at the man hours, and looking at the business of the airframe, primarily, we're probably year to date about -1% out of our original budget. But then if I look at really the COVID to date, which effectively we look at it from, let's say, April,
April to August,
up until now, we're almost, about 8 to 10%. So, listen, now, how long is that going to be? That's another question. Obviously, we've been quite resilient trying to find, ways to mitigate, obviously, the situation. Mm-hmm. And from a sustainability perspective, I think that's really is the answer. But I think, Baha mentioned it, and you as well, Rahul, is the forecasting is really quite difficult. Where you're thinking that you're getting this aircraft, everything is okay, and then literally last minute, something happens, and exactly, and the reshuffling from a production perspective, and really working with our customers, I think even proactively is another statement, but working with our customers to really ensure that whatever was in a pipeline happens. I think that's actually a key success factor, probably to ensuring that so far we're only about 10% off. But
no, that's great. Well, if you look at MRO businesses overall, like Ziad mentioned, it ranges from 35 to 50% reduction overall in commercial business. Defense is holding on okay, if we look at AAR today. But commercial business is down from 30 to 35%. So, I mean, you doing only 8%, that's very remarkable, Frederic. That's great. Congratulations.
And, the other thing is also has been, and it definitely has helped significantly, is really obviously the fact that we're an airline MRO. So, we've done a lot of work as well, for Etihad, as they launched, the entire wellness campaign, ensuring that, we kept all the, interior cabins, and we did a lot of work there. So that has also helped significantly.
That shielded you, right? That's good.
Exactly.
That's good. Thank you. That's great. Scott?
Thank you, Rahul. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. So our point of view on the COVID impact is that, I believe that airlines are going to be in a prolonged period of business not as usual, right? And I don't think we're going to reach a new normal for some time. I also believe that, the tribal knowledge or throwing people at the problem is no longer going to be a viable way to address the issues. So what we're doing is we're looking to partner with our service providers to help streamline their operations and help them to provide enhanced new offerings. I believe now is the time to introduce new technology as a part of a digital transformation strategy.
Absolutely.
To help them to lower their overall cost base, and it's going to give them the agility to dial up or dial down their operations in lockstep with the market growth. So as you see, those fleets start getting put more into rotation, as you start to see the increase in those, one has the ability to ramp up those efforts. And, from our point of view, our goal is to help make it easier and more affordable for the airlines to introduce these new commercial models, deferring those costs and giving them additional flexibility until they can get to new operational levels from a perspective.
Absolutely. I think, like mentioned on my opening remark, flexibility in your operation is going to be the key for driving for future, and then bring the loyalty from the customer, and that's what's going to happen. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. So that leads to our second question, which leads to how will your business be impacted by increased retirement? As you can imagine, there are about tens of thousands of aircrafts are being retired or put in storage. But that means there's going to be increased surplus material or parts become available. Not right now, but as the aircrafts coming to the teardown, and I would say it's within 3 to 6 months, you will see the influx of parts and everything else. And customers deferring to purchase material and maintenance. I mean, airlines today, their liquidity and cash holding is the low-hanging fruit is maintenance of the aircraft. If they can defer aircraft maintenance or put in engine green time, that's where they're going to save money. So what kind of safeguarding you are putting in place for your company to mitigate this, and have you quantified the challenges for that? Go ahead, Scott, since you're online.
So if we look at the short-term challenges around the aircraft retirement, the lease returns, the cabin reconfigs, managing the maintenance capabilities, this is going to place a heavy burden on the staff while they look to evolve their business. Right. They have to reevaluate their supply chains. They have to deal with the lingering effects of the pandemic on the route structures and the capacity planning. I again believe that technology is going to play a very large role here in dealing with this complexity. Significant levels of automation and planning optimization are no longer going to be luxuries. Those are going to be must-haves,
necessity,
or requirements, in order to effectively, manage the increased dynamics. If they do this properly, a digital strategy will help them to both build the agility and the resilience into the airline business processes. If we look at ability to be agile in this market, you look at, Ethiopian Airlines, who had a major initiative to convert commercial flights into
cargo.
Right.
Cargo.
So that type of agility and the reconfiguration of the passenger to the cargo is an example of where I think, you would need to see technology underpinning the agile requirements of these organizations.
Good. Okay. That's good. Thank you. Ziad?
I agree with Scott and Rahul. I think that's a very interesting development. Existing fleets will stay longer. You've got certain fleets will retire, and that will definitely have more surplus coming into the market. We see this now, and of course that's going to have also effects, I think, on valuations of assets on the books of airlines. How will that affect it? So there's a lot of interesting things there that will come up. On the one hand, yes, of course, it's challenging for an MRO, but at the same time, I think our focus today is similar also what Frederic and Scott were talking about is, how can we support our customers and our partners in managing their cash flow? So what we are trying to do is similar to what Jeff mentioned as well, working together with partners, trying to find the best ways to manage those inventories. And I think out of those, we might see also more opportunities of working together, outsourcing certain things, certain capabilities or parts management. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities, and I think that's also where that digitalization and comes in as well. How can we make use of those tools that we have now even more going forward?
Okay, that's great.
That's focus at the moment.
Okay. Baha, for your engine overhaul business, this could be a pretty new role as far as trying to get the used serviceable material, because the engine overhaul has 70% content on material, and having more surplus inventory available to you, which might help you reduce your overall cost of the overhaul. Can you just throw light on that, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this does present a good opportunity for our third-party business. As you know, for OEM business, some of our business is with the OEM, a large percentage of it, and the OEM supplies the parts. But for third-party business, airlines, third-party serviceable material is a great thing. Availability of serviceable material, because it reduces the cost. Now, as you said, and as everyone mentioned on the panel, the airline main concern now is cash flow and conserving cash, and therefore the cheaper the engine shop visits are, the better for the airline. But there are also other mitigants that we are right now implementing and campaigning with airlines, especially the ones that have been long-term customers with us, in trying to offer longer payment terms, or trying to offer reduced work scopes to keep the engines running and in the air rather than complete refurbishment. All of these solutions are being discussed with the customer. And like you said, we cannot now rely on a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
To create bespoke solutions for each and every customer, because each and every customer has special requirements. Some customers have requirements to do with, they want to keep the engine on the wing for a longer time. And some customers, they just want to, keep the engines for a certain time and then retire the aircraft or have another plan for the aircraft. So there is a lot of challenges out there for the airlines. And as an MRO, if we are going to get any business, we have to be flexible and we have to present bespoke solutions. I like what Scott has said about the digitalization and creating this commercial model that's going to help us, dial in and dial out capacity. That's something that I will be looking forward to seeing in the future.
Good. Baha, one more question for you. Do you think because of the engine deferral coming out from the customer and probably having engine more green time, are you seeing an increase in inquiries from your customer to have these engines or engine as an exchange for not going to be repair engine for their on-wing engines? Do you see that increased activity from your customers?
Yes, we do see it, especially the engine exchange solution. As I said, a lot of the airlines have a retirement plan, and for instance, they will ask for an exchange that will fit that plan. So if he's planning to retire the aircraft after 7 or 10,000 cycles, he would want an exchange engine that has a green life of 7 or 10,000 cycles. So we are able to exchange with the customer if we have that, and that's another aspect of things with materials, which allow us to build these lower cycle engines to offer them as exchange to third parties.
Right, and that includes your flexibility in the system, what we talked about. So that's great that you have that solution available for customer, which is going to be helpful to you long term.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Baha. Fred, you want to jump into this as well?
Yeah, sure. Listen, I think everybody is, aligned with the thought process here. At the end of the day, I think it's all about adaptability. We all know that customers, unfortunately, airlines, will be for quite a foreseeable future, be trying to conserve cash and therefore, delay maintenance as much as possible. But I think from our side as MROs, it's all about how can we take a challenge and convert it into an opportunity. So yes, there may be less, typical maintenance checks, but then, can we improve or enhance our value proposition, when it comes to end of lease, okay? Because unfortunately, there will be a lot of end of lease, wanted or not wanted,
absolutely,
of aircrafts, and the thing is, if you're able to throw in, a parking solution with that as well, then maybe there's that's something that is of interest, because unfortunately also not a lot of lessors have already lessees lined up, so talking about based on surplus of material, maybe start trading. I mean, we've been trading, but not necessarily to the extent that we would like to, and maybe this is an opportunity, as long as you can hold, because obviously trading now probably is not the best, because you probably get 10 cents on your dollar, or I'm not sure, but anyway, if you can weather the inventory carrying cost for a little bit, then maybe there are some solutions. Along with aircraft parting out, where now you're taking a look at the full value stream, in terms of feeding off the parking requirements, to effectively feeding the components, through a repair management services, and then after that, feeding the parts trading stream as well. So I mean, all these are things that we're looking, actively at, and hopefully it will change, I think, our business, and will allow us to, I think, spread our risk, from a portfolio perspective better, because unfortunately, call it COVID-19 or COVID-20 or 9/11 or SARS or whatever it is, it's not a matter if there will be another crisis, it's just a matter of when. And we just want to make sure that we will learn from the past experience, and be better for the next one.
Right. And like you said, any organizer has to have a flexibility to adapt to the change. And like you said, if you're heavy maintenance and opportunity comes along to do the trading, and you can get the business going with, next 3 to 4 months, that's going to be the best time to, if you have money, best time to invest in assets, because your value chain is going to be the lower compared to the trading partners who are already in the business. They will have a asset with a high cost, which they bought it last year or year before or whatever. So that's one. And the second I want to ask you, Fred, is, do you think the lease return, which is going to be gangbusters? I'm using this word because every lessor or every airline I've been talking about, they want to resize their fleet. They want to, come down to 60%, 50% of the fleet what they have today. That's telling me that some of the aircraft what they have leased from the lessor is going to go back, right? And when that happens, lease return checks, it's a monumental task to do it within 30 to 40 to 50 days, right? Do you think with that influx of airplane coming into the market for these return checks in not now, but 6 to 8 months to 12 months down the road, do you think that people will be fighting for the slot of the hangars?
I mean, the thing though is, I don't think we'll have the same capacity issue as we had before, because effectively, it's not going to come just like this.
Correct.
It'll be
right.
Exactly. It'll be a slow, transitioning.
Right.
But I think, there are not a lot of MROs out there at the end of the day that can do a good, EOL, lease transition.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, these are not checks, they are projects, as you very well know. And some of the things that we've been working on, for the past actually couple of years, is really looking at, how do we cater to the leasing market, ensuring that we can do, the check for sure, but then we can do the paint, we can do the low power reconfiguration, we can park, we can do the camo, while the aircraft is sitting, the dereg, re-reg process, do all 9 yards. So effectively, it's a full value stream. And that I think is, just a few MROs do it well.
Can do it, right?
Exactly, and that's where we're banking on being being there.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's good to hear. So what you're saying is you already have those good capabilities already in place. You don't need to do another one. So you're already ready.
We're already ready, and to be honest, we're already doing end of leases as we speak. We had a couple of lessors and lessors, and actually, interestingly enough, even new lessee, which is surprising, but yes. So yeah.
Nice. Very good. Very good. All right. So this, again, like I said, it's a competitive business. How to get ready, how to get agile. I think we discussed all together. So I think we got a good sense of where the market is heading, where the companies and facilities needs to be ready. So now I want to focus our attention to digital strategy. Okay. As I mentioned on my opening remark, digital strategy is going to be the key. And I think Scott verified it as well, to navigate ourselves into what we are today and get ready for the future. That way it gets more cost effectivity, more efficiency, and more margins for the MRO. So I'm going to address to you, Fred, since you are on that right now. What could be your digital strategy for Etihad Engineering, and how that impacts you for the future growth?
So, the good news is we did not wait for COVID-19 to have a digital strategy. So it's one of the significant stream of our what we call a strategy steering committee. And to be honest with you, from a digital MRO perspective, it goes through the entire ecosystem of an MRO. I mean, from the customer portal, type experience to obviously, the digital task card and paperless environment and supply chain RFID and everything else. So it's an interesting, subject. The thing though that we have to be honest is, based on the situation which we're in, we're really looking at, okay, do we stick to the same priorities? Is it the same schedule? Because, technology is, we all love the buzzword, but at the end of the day, there's a cost to it. Yeah.
Cost effectiveness. Yeah.
So now it's, we're looking at reprioritizing effectively some of the streams that we had within, this digital MRO, tactical plan, based on COVID-19 and try to really optimize resources, cost, return, impact to obviously customers and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's the process that we're going through. And hopefully, listen, the focus is still there, but I think the fact that, we've reduced, capacity slightly, it's an opportunity for us to really focus on those kind of things. We have the manpower. So, as an example, we are working now, to digitalize, and obviously take the opportunity to do full value stream events for all our TPMs, all our technical procedure manuals. So things like this that, we would struggle to do, normal time or effectively take that long, to do it.
Right.
Now we can put a little bit more, more focus on that. So
correct. Just wanted to put a background for the audience here is, I'm emphasizing on digital strategy because I know some of the companies, even Etihad, Lufthansa, AA, are already into some of the digital strategy. But I mean, if you look at 30% of the companies are in it, 70% is not in it, and then 89% of the executives says they want to be in it. So that's why I want to raise this question and discussion, because when you're putting a technology and digitization, all the capital, I mean, return on invested capital is going to be the key benchmark for the CFO and CEO to sign up. Okay, and the important statistics I have is 20% of those businesses who gain and put capital equipment and investment on it, they are giving the ROIC between 25 to 35%. Okay, but remaining 70%, okay, has not reached that target. And one of the reasons is they have not fully invested in it. So they were, going piecemeal, okay? And that's where this time of COVID, like you mentioned, Frederic, the capacity is there, but you don't have, you are reduced workload. So you have enough time on yourself. As long as you have liquidity and cash to invest, I think I would definitely go for it. I mean, so I just wanted to give you the background. So thank you very much. Yeah. Scott?
Thank you, Rahul. So at IFS, our goal is to deliver the underlying digital thread that's going to help to facilitate our customers and their ability to meet their unique business objectives, especially in these trying times. If we look at, an organization that's providing services, those organizations really need to provide solutions that underpin the entire asset life cycle, whether it be land, sea, air, what have you, and providing, really valuable insights to our customers that are going to help to enable the relationships to optimize all the parts of the ecosystem. If I were to look at MRO service providers specifically, and with respect to the members of the panel who are experts in this area, I'll just share my point of view, that I believe that if these organizations are going to be successful, they have to have highly skilled people at estimating the labor and the materials for the work packages that both include the scheduled and the as found requirements. They need to do this planning of their work activities based on labor, based on other constraints, and they need to be really efficient at effectively capturing the data. The digital technologies really are designed with these aspects in mind to generate cost savings. If I look at another example, if we look at estimating of work that's facilitated by the ability to capture historical data, if we combine that with the work planning and how to improve that work planning on the real-time scheduling, the optimization tools that are available, artificial intelligence and augmented reality are things that we're seeing coming to the forefront that are available to organizations. The use of advanced algorithms, the ability to capture data and enhance that data through mobile solutions for those technicians. You augment all of this with the reality that gives the customers a 360-degree view and really help them to understand those areas that are going to maybe stress their business. If you leverage this, and if you leverage what I would consider to be predictive analytic capabilities, you really have the ability to react quickly in these scenarios and to ensure that the timelines that are prescribed aren't compromised, that the products and are not compromised, that you have the ability to provide the supply chain with some flexibility when it is stressed. So I think at the end of the day, we want to enable customers, and we think it's important for our partners to be able to support their customers and the commitments they've made to them. And I believe that digital strategy and what I've mentioned are all foundational elements to really help those businesses transform and provide that customer experience.
Okay. Oh, that's great, Scott. Thank you. That's great. Now, Ziad and Baha, I'm going to add one more question to your digital strategy as big data, because as an engine overhaul business, both of you have, of course, Lufthansa also on component and heavy maintenance and everything else. So a lot of data coming out of the new aircraft and engine, I would say terabytes and multiple terabytes every hour. So what are the technologies you need to adopt in future to try to get ready for it? Ziad, do you want to start with that? That of course combines with the digital strategy as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, there's thousands of data points, and I think we've started this already way before COVID.
Okay.
And I think we all knew the potential. I think now it's just accelerated the need to develop these systems faster, quicker. At the moment, it's the heart of our strategy. We've invested a lot into our Aviatar platform. It's also, and you can already see today there's virtual table inspections. There's a predictive maintenance. You've got environmental, so much data from the environments, from your operations, from your historical data, and if you combine all of that, we already are seeing the effects. I mean, the benefits today, and airlines as well. As Frederic also knows, I mean, there's a lot of projects collaborating individually, and I think the opportunity comes up in bringing all of these experiences together and monetizing that going forward. But we're already seeing the benefits out of it today. It's moving.
But one more question I would have before I go to Baha, Ziad, is when you get this data, coming directly from engine or aircraft, would you have enough manpower and technology to analyze the data to see, because the idea is to do predictive and preventive maintenance, and then if you can do that very well, that's where it's going to get impacted for the airline operations, because they don't have to have an AOG. They can be ready with the components when there's going to be failing when they land, and they can start, and then they don't have to wait for the parts, and they can start the revenue stream. The question to you and both Baha is that, do you have enough expertise and available manpower, available technology to analyze those terabytes of data coming in every hour? So what kind of facilities you have developed?
Yeah, I think that the challenge is not the technology you have, it's of course the data and interpreting that data.
Another data, yeah.
So on the one hand, it's what data do we have from historical events? So I think we have a lot of that. How do you take that and make logic out of it, which we're working on a number of different products. And the other side is, of course, from the airline or the operator, what are their conditions in their environments? What data points do they have, and how can we combine that? So I think it's not just one side of the coin, there are two sides of it. And then, of course, there's the operations and the environmental side. But you need to work together, and we're making quite a bit of progress on that already. We can already see in certain areas where things can be predicted on certain routes, and where to look in certain tasks which need to be done. So it's exciting. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Excellent. That's great news. That's great news. Baha, you want to throw light on your digital strategy for Sanad Aero, and what kind of incentive or predictive maintenance you've been benefiting out of it?
Yeah. So as Fred said, we've had a strategy for a few years right now on investing on digital and all of that, and we're a bit lucky, as you said. When it comes to sign off by the CFO and the CEO, it can be difficult for these business cases. But we are lucky. Our CEO and, as you know, our chairman is a big technology guy. Artificial intelligence guy, and he's promoting that. So we are a bit lucky in getting that. And one of the capital investment that we have not reduced as of COVID is the investment in technology. So that is going down as usual. And we have had several successes in RFID. We have had successes in induction through computers and stuff like that. And recently we had a big success in doing a virtual table inspection with the customer. So so a video virtual inspection plus displays, virtual displays of parts and defects of parts and so on and so forth. We've done that very recently in the past 3 weeks, and it was a success. As you know, with the travel restrictions, customers and users used to come to the shop and look at these parts, physically. But now we can do this virtually, and customers are happy with it. As far as the data collection and logic and predictive maintenance, as you know, we have a very strong relationship with the major OEMs as GE, Rolls-Royce, and IAE, and our strategy, because of our size, is to piggyback on OEM project. So these facilities already exist with the OEM, and these abilities are there, and the data and the analysis of the data is there. What we need to do, instead of investing in a whole new system just for us, because of our size, is try to piggyback on one of these OEM projects. So that is the strategy. As I said, investment on artificial intelligence or technology has not been stopped or reduced. As a matter of fact, we are automating a lot of our processes right now, and we're seeing the benefit. We're seeing the return on investment on this automation, and we believe it's the way of the future, because, as Fred has said, COVID-19 will go away, but there will be another major events that is going to affect the industry. And if we prepare ourselves to be in a position where we can use technology to weather that storm and reduce our costs or adjust our capacity, whatever is needed at the time, then we have not done our jobs. I believe that the investment in technology is the way to go, and we will continue doing this even in this time of crisis.
Okay, thank you, Vahat. That's great. I know I have another question on blockchain. I think I'm going to ask Scott only on that. Scott, can you throw a light on a blockchain and how you think it's evolving for the supply chain value chain?
Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, I mean, I believe that, it's probably one of the most talked about and intriguing technologies today. And I think a lot of people that talk about it don't really have the knowledge of what really the value, if you harness the value of blockchain. At the very core, its purpose is to secure 100% verifiable and traceable data. While it's not really, I don't believe, in the mainstream yet, we do have within our labs the ability to research in how this could impact the aviation industry. If I look at a modern aircraft, say it has 2 to 3 million parts, right? Knowing where these parts came from, understanding their specifications, making sure they're not counterfeit. These are all really key elements on, these tracked items. Many people within the life cycle today, from a manufacturer to a transporter to an operator, they all have their own disparate systems. And how do we find a way to build up that one single source of truth? Right? How do we build that? And if we look across the asset's entire life cycle, a lot of times these records are really incomplete. They're still paper-based. They're not digital. Yeah. And they really provide a barrier for the participants to get things done appropriately. So, you've got a lack of standardization that's going to limit your traceability. You've got the cost of compliance. These are all barriers to being successful. And blockchain technology can enable and break these barriers down and help an organization become more agile, become more efficient, and become more cost effective. You know, if you get to the point where you 100% verifiable, 100% traceable, and really trustworthy information on the asset and the asset life cycle, it's going to put you in a position to really set your business up for success.
Correct. And it saves a lot of cost. And, you know, when you're doing the trading of changing hats from 1, 2, 3, 4, people spend a lot of time verifying the data today. But if you have a blockchain data already digitized, you know, there is no way anybody can maneuver that. And that will help out. Now, one more last question for you, Scott, is do you think in order for blockchain supply in supply chain to be successful for the aviation industry, do you think OEM needs to embark on that to right from the day they manufacture the part, so it flows through when they change hands, or it can be in between?
I think ideally it's from the beginning of the journey, Rahul.
Okay.
You know, I think that
I agree.
Can you provide, you know, a solution that enables the ability, if it's not starting at the beginning of the journey? Sure, but it's much more difficult. And if you can see, to your point, the collaboration across the MROs, the operators, the OEMs, and even the federal regulation bodies, right? You know, whether it be the ones that we see in Europe or in the US or in Asia, you know, if you have a collaboration of all those organizations all looking for, you know, a similar outcome, I think it puts the organizations in a better position to be effective and efficiently run.
You know, Scott, that's a very good point, which is one of the things that we're struggling with as well, is because, as you said, you know, as amazing potential as a technology, but then again, the true benefit of it can only be unleashed if the entire value stream does it.
Exactly.
So some people are saying, hey, you know, we've done some trials, okay, with the airline and on engines as an example, but then it's contained, okay. But guess what? You know, the true benefit is only going to happen when the OEM does it, when the lessor does it.
Correct.
You know, as you said, the regulatory bodies and whatnot, and so, but people are waiting to say, okay, do I wait that everybody jumps into the wagon, and then I start being able to do, you know, like a blockchain-based transaction, versus, you know, everybody does it together, and then, you know, we can get to the optimal point sooner. So that's the interesting, I guess, conversation.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that question, Fred, because if OEM cannot get into the bandwagon, you know, you will have a hard time incorporating blockchain in the midst of the process where the part or, you know, aircraft parts has already changed 4 or 5 hands, you know. Right. So how do you trace it back to the original one, right? So I think that's an important point for the OEM to be embarking on. That's great, guys. This comes to our end of the session. I'm going to summarize what we have discussed and what opportunities we can embark on as an MRO, heavy maintenance MRO, engine MRO, or the software or digitization of the product. So we talked about the short-term opportunity could be lease returns, which could be a big business for the MRO, which is coming due. Short-term lease returns, long-term or transition checks. Medium term, there are opportunities to deepen cooperation with airline. What we talked about parts. Is there an opportunity? Because airline is looking for liquidity today. So if a customer or MRO or engine facility can work with an airline to provide that liquidity with sell and lease back or some kind of financing arrangement where we can help them raise cash, and that also get us as a you know, like you talked about, Fred, the components which for trading activity. So when you do the sell and lease back, you own the part, and that way you are already in the business of trading parts once those aircraft parts come to you in a 1 or 2 year time. So that's another medium term opportunity which helps you to do it. And you know, acceptance of a used serviceable material. I guess this is going to be a big impact to the MRO industry. Airlines are really ready to reduce cost. They are looking at all alternative ways to make sure that they can save 10, 15, 20% of the material pricing, especially on engines and sometimes in airframe as well, because rotable high cost driver rotables You don't want to put new material. You want to put used overhaul, which is equally good, you know. So that also an opportunity, MRO with service offering that incorporates an array of alternate material offering will benefit from providing the customer with choices. And retrofits, you know, I mean, Ziad mentioned, and I think Scott mentioned Etihad and Ethiopian airline doing from passenger to cargo conversion. I mean, that's a very good initiative for offering that service to the airline customers, so they can, well, the demand of the traffic is down, they can use those aircraft to support the cargo, which is a booming business right now. So I mean, cargo conversion is another one which is happening. Of course, that's a very specific business which you can just get in, because you got to have all your STCs and everything else. But still, that could be another leveraging opportunity for the businesses to get in. And of course, the digitization. I mean, Scott and everybody else mentioned that is going to be the key for success, I think. And like for Frederic, you mentioned there are companies who already started 3 years ago, but there are certain companies who haven't started it. So the companies who had a head start, I think this is the perfect opportunity to invest into more digitization, more cost effectiveness, more making efficient operations. So when the ready demand comes in, you can do more with less. And that's where I think we discussed. So I will thank all the panel members for participating and joining it, guys. Thank you very much. And with this, I am Rahul Shah, your moderator of your session, will sign off, and we'll be ready for the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Stay safe, gents.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to you. This is Rahul Shah, Senior Vice President for AAR Corporation. We're going to be talking today the important topic of the MRO impact and how the digital transformation of the company is going forward pre-COVID, post-COVID issues. So if you look at today, because of COVID-19, a lot of cash is a king. All the MRO and airline companies are struggling to make their ends meet, and they want to hold on to the cash. However, if you look at the digital strategy, by putting in investment today, it will be pay off within next 2 years after the COVID-19 goes away. So there are surveys done on some of the executives within the last 60 days of how this digital transformation works for their company. And 79% of the executive had mentioned that they would encourage the investment in digital technology. And that way, when the COVID-19 impact goes away, they are ready to grow the company in a big way. So, and if you recall, digital is all about return on invested capital. And one of the reasons it hasn't transformed early days because of the ROIC measurements, which all the CEO and CFO goes after the digital officers. And 30% of the companies today who invested into digital has, ROIC is almost 25 to 30%, so which is very good. But still remaining 70 or 60% of the companies who has investor, who is willing to invest, hasn't yield that kind of stuff. So today we're going to be talking about digital and how that impacts to the businesses. And we have Dharmesh Patel, who is the Vice President of Information System for Global Aerospace Logistics with us to discuss some of the strategy. Dharmesh, welcome.
Thanks, Rahul. Appreciate it for the introduction. Just a little bit of background on myself. I'm Dharmesh Patel. I just joined GAL in November last year. I've been in the aerospace industry for about 25 years, working for a large MRO provider in the US, in different functional knowledge base from MRO to manufacturing to supply chain. So I joined GAL as of November. As GAL, as you know, has grown and spurs, just winning the biggest contract probably in the Middle East. So we're in this growth spur, and at the same time we're doing this digital transformation. our current strategy around digital transformation is taking our the current base and bringing it to the next level of around the systems, big, large data, visibility into the business, and also changing our business processes. So we're doing a multi-stage digital transformation as we move forward.
That's great to hear, Dharmesh. So with that, I'm going to go straight into the questions which I have for you. So the first question is, Global Aerospace Logistics is a big corporation, and as you mentioned, you were brought in to bring in that digital transformation. So with that, I'm going to ask you a question. The first question is, what is the digital strategy for your organization, and how COVID-19 has impacted on the investment part of the business for the digital?
So, and just to add on to what I said before, is like our current strategy, we have a basic baseline around the systems and software and data. Now we bring it up to the next level. We're trying to consolidate it and make the business more data-driven. So we're trying to centralize all the data, centralize all the business processes. Because majority of our business currently is with the UAE military. We have no footprint in the commercial, but we'll be getting, just before the COVID hit, we were getting into the commercial business and opening MRO shops in Africa, but that's kind of, COVID kind of stopped that process or them moving forward. But I think it's going to pick up again as COVID disappears over the next few months or so. So right now, since our customer base is UAE military, we're extremely busy, and obviously, COVID does have some impact. But our digital strategy of replacing and upgrading those systems, and also upgrading and moving our business processes to next generation business processes is in plan, and we are implementing that as we speak. So COVID has, from that perspective, an investment perspective, we are fully embedded in making sure this transformation happens at this stage, because I think this is the right time to do it. Because one of the things that happens as the company grows, it's hard to change, right? Because new business comes in, and it's hard to adapt new processes to the new business because base is not there. So right now, we are fully engaged, fully investing in digital. Even from at the edge level company, as you know, we are part of the large organization. They're in the same direction. We follow in the same direction to move forward with the organization.
Oh wow, that's great to hear, Dharmesh. And looks like then your overall view falls within the 30 or 40% of executives who are willing to invest into the digital, which will probably have you a growth pattern as the COVID goes away, and then you're ready to embark on a new businesses and new growth. That's great. That's good to hear. So that gets back to blockchain, right? The blockchain is huge in the supply chain and digital transformation of the data and all those things. Does blockchain technology has emerged for you as a supply chain tool, and how it impacts your supply chain organization?
Around the blockchain technology, and as you know, is a new technology that I've been for the last 3 to 4 years. And last 2 years, there's a lot of POCs that have been deployed throughout the industry. One thing about blockchain and the way we can take advantage of it, the OEMs have to get involved, with the blockchain technology, because they're the manufacturer of the part. So they're the company that ingests or creates the record on the blockchain, so we can ingest it into our business processes. Like if you take a Honeywell, they have created a blockchain solution. They have deployed it. They have put their components, OEM components on, and also repair components on blockchain. But we can take advantage of the Honeywell, but we cannot take advantage of any other OEMs. And I think as more OEMs start getting to the blockchain and all the different data or connections available to consumer of that technology would be like GAL, and then I think we'll take more advantage of it, But as as GAL goes into more MRO, or we go into more MRO component MRO business, as our strategy is going to be, we'll be creating our own blockchain, because we'll be the source of that part, and we'll have historical tracking of the part, and we'll be part of the ecosystem. But I think, right now it's still a new technology. There's no governance around it, and there is no, I think that's one key thing that needs to be emphasized in the aviation industry. There has to be some kind of standards around interfacing with the blockchain technology. But the future is amazing for the blockchain.
Okay. No, I completely agree with you. As the OEM is the backbone of creating data and creating the part and creating all the information goes with the part. If they start with that process, the whole supply chain follows, and then it will have an emerging technology with the blockchain. And I just saw a report on blockchain. They're saying within the next 5 years, the blockchain will be a necessary tool for most of the supply chain organization or MRO or OEMs to make sure that everybody gets adapted. So that's great. It's great to hear that you believe in that as well. Okay, so then next phase of the data is about big data. As you can imagine, there's a lot of hue and cry about big data for the last 2-3 years from OEMs, both airframe and engine OEMs, and a lot of petabytes of data is every day is being transmitted from the new aircraft and engines to the operator, and that has created a lot of issues among whether analyzing the data, do the airline or MRO has enough infrastructure to handle those kind of data to make sure that analysis is being done. What is your take on that?
So you're right. It is, and I mean the data is extremely large, right? So one of the specs I saw just recently is each like a 737, each two engines can produce about 20 terabytes of data for a 1 hour flight. I mean, that's a lot of data, right? And if you have, and I think US they said there's about 28,000 flights per year, and at that point you're talking about 2.5 billion terabytes of data coming per year. So who's going to analyze all that, right? And plus, how do you consolidate that and analyze it? I mean, for that you need big data, and also one of the things is also sharing of data. There's a lot of airlines, they don't share data. And because they consider that data that proprietary information, right?
Right.
It's affect the way the airplanes are configured, and that's my proprietary. I'm not going to share that. So all that has to be worked out. But for an organization that has a large fleet, and if they can collect that data, I mean, you're talking about huge savings on maintenance. Right? You're talking about 20 to 30% savings on maintenance as well. If they can analyze that data, and their tools exist out there. Don't get me wrong; these tools exist, but it's a huge investment. And I think. Right now with this COVID, and a lot of airlines are kind of shrinking and all that, and they'll be deploying the next generation fleet. They're going to need that. It's an absolute now. Yeah, before there's a lot of older generation did not have that data, right? They didn't have the capacity. But now with the next generation, I mean, that's the challenge. A lot of airlines, even us, GAL, UAE is going to get some new fighters. It's 100% digital, right? All the sensors. So when we do maintenance on those particular aircraft, we have to analyze and collect all the data. So we'll have the same challenges. But the technology exists, but we need to invest in implementation and make sure it gets implemented properly and the right resources. We're going to need more digital talent.
And the big data, the main objective of data transmission from aircraft and engines when they are in the air is to get the reactive and predictive maintenance. So that way, when the aircrafts are coming on the ground, an operator knows what components they need to change before even they arrive. So that way, you can reduce your on-time departure, AOG situation, and that saves you a lot of money. I mean, one report I heard 6 months ago that with this predictive maintenance and proactive data analysis, it's going to save billions of dollars to the airline worldwide. So I think it's a necessary evil. Like you mentioned that it's very necessary to have that analytical ability by airline and MRO sooner or later, and they need to take advantage of it. As the new aircrafts and engines come on the flight. So Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and I think this is the time to do it. You know, and our industry, especially the commercial industry, is obviously taking a dive bomb. But this is a time to invest in, time to build it inside. You know, we get fresh graduates coming out of college, a lot of data scientists coming out. I think is getting them involved in the aviation industry because someone has to analyze all this stuff. There's a lot of data, you know, and obviously the systems that kind of aggregate the data, but someone has to look at it and make sure it's accurate and make sure there's relationships set up with the maintenance team, and the maintenance team understands that data also. You know, before it was like plane lands and the maintenance plan, and now there's gonna be a guy in the middle.
It's already there.
It has to know the information translated and provided to the maintenance plan.
Correct. And again, I know there is a big question about who owns data. OEM thinks they own the data, and the airline thinks they own the aircraft, so they own the data. So that also has not completely settled, you know, and there are warranty issues, premature MTBR removal, who takes responsibility. Those all things to be resolved. But I think just for this discussion, this is definitely a necessity to make sure that airline MRO has that ability to do the analysis and everything else. That's great. Well, thank you, Dharmesh, for your time. We wish you best luck on your new digital strategy for GAL, and we hope to speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Rahul. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dharmesh.